SummerSlam predictions. Last night was awesome. Talking with Vinny from Suds in the Squared Circle. Had some great takes on the matches that are coming up. So tonight, obviously, it's a big card. It's a big to-do. We're live right now on TikTok. We're also live on Twitter. Also over on YouTube as well. So obviously, big card, big PLE feel. Not something I want to do on my own. So I'm going to bring in a fellow Driver to the Top member, very, very good friend. How we doing, my man? How's everything going?
Hey, what's up? What's cooking, man? How are you?
Chilling, baby. So it's a great week. Raw was good. SmackDown should be good. I'm very excited for this SummerSlam. I think a lot of storytelling that's happened the first 6 months of the year. I think some things get kind of ended now on Saturday. And I think maybe some more stories are left to be told as the end of the year comes around and possibly 2025. So with that being said, for those of you who haven't seen Rich on my show before, feel free to give the people a little rundown about you.
I live in Waco, Texas, but I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So been around, the professional wrestling TV and the scene for, 40 years. I started out watching Bruno Sammartino and those guys up in Pittsburgh and hiding whenever the big red X came up on the TV when Mulligan would put the claw on and that kind of deal. Of course, then I go to Texas where the claw is the thing. Got a chance to become pretty good friends with Kerry Von Erich. I knew all the guys, but I was pretty good buddies with Kerry, and been around the scene here for a long time. Been around wrestling all my life, though. And I've got some friends that have been involved with different things. Actually, a guy I went to high school with wrestled WCW for a little while and some other things. He was one of the Awesome Kongs. So, I've been around it and had a chance to meet a lot of people through this thing. Did it for a hot minute till I broke my ankle. And then I went, let's not do that. So did a little commentary, that kind of thing. I've had some pretty cool things happen through my radio career. I've spent 20 years in radio. And I've been involved in wrestling every place I've been, whether it was Illinois or Maryland, Delaware area. Got to meet the Briscoes out there, and Memphis, worked hand in hand with Jerry Lawler on some shows and that kind of deal. So it's been pretty cool. But yeah, old school, new school. I was telling you before we went on the air, I'm making my political campaign. So I know this is a non-political zone, but there you go.
I like it. We need to make it great again, baby, because it is great. It's cool again. It's up there. You can see it. It's kind of mainstream. Commercials are starting. I'm waiting for these guys to pop up on SNL one week. That's the next variation of them being that much in the media. So, awesome. Go ahead.
Who do you think would be good on SNL though? Who right now would be good, like a Cena or a Rock or somebody like that on SNL?
Punk, Mello. Seth Rollins.
I didn't think about Mello.
Yeah, Mello would be funny. Trick. And maybe some guys we think that are just way too serious. Maybe like a Karrion Kross, where they go on somewhere like there and they show their acting chops and show their ad lib chops. Maybe we see something that's a different side of them. That could be kind of cool. I think. Go ahead.
What about Heyman?
Paul Heyman?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he'd be hilarious. He would. Oh man, he's willing to do anything as long as it makes sense. And he dives into any role they give him. He would probably want to do everything. They'd have to make the show extra long for him to be on it. There'd be no skit that would be unwanted. He'd want to do everything.
Yeah.
But awesome. Yeah. So speaking of a lot of media, speaking of wrestling being great again and being cool again, big PLE this Saturday, SummerSlam. Biggest part of the summer, as it's been called for a long time. As I said, some rematches, a lot of stories that might be coming to an end, but also a lot of loose ends that might not be tied up going into August, September, November, December. So let's just start at the bottom. Not that there is a bottom. We'll have a floor. Let's start somewhere and kind of go up from there because all these matches are pretty much title matches. So let's just start. All right, we'll just start with Braun Breaker, Sami Zayn for the IC title, Intercontinental Championship. Obviously, a rematch from the last PLE. I know all of us, I know you and me talked about it, not on a show like this, but we talked about it in an open forum that I know a lot of people were just dead set that there's no way that Sami Zayn was walking out with that Intercontinental Championship. Being the underdog of the underground, obviously, he got through. He won. I think it could have been something where he maybe had a couple more finishers and kind of made it a little more tougher to beat Braun Breaker. But I think this time around, giving this a rematch, I don't see Braun Breaker not winning. I think the first match kind of humbled Breaker, kind of seeing, okay, maybe he's not as easy as I thought it would be. This isn't going to be an easy test, but knowing he has to put in a little bit extra to take down Sami. So I have Braun walking away with the belt. What do you think?
I do too. For a couple reasons. I think that he's going to learn from his mistakes from the last time, but B, I think that they have other things for Sami coming up. I think that there's some things coming for Sami involving some things that he did in the past. And we'll get into some of that other stuff as we keep talking about this. But I really think that, whenever we get to that point of the evening, I think Breaker comes away with the title, gets his first championship, his first main roster championship. And we see Sami get involved with some other things down the road.
Awesome. I like it. I think I know where you're going with that. I kind of have an idea about it as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to that match. But I think Braun Breaker walks away, deservingly so. An amazing athlete, amazing in the ring, good on the mic, has definitely honed his craft, obviously coming from the lineage that he has from his dad and uncle. So I think he's going to be a great champion. And after Gunther, I think he's definitely someone that's going to hold that belt for a little while and, give it some meaning and make it a not easy win. If you get out of his claws, it's going to be a meaningful win for whoever gets that belt off of him.
Yeah, 100%. He's definitely going to be, someone that they can build around and build all the way up to WrestleMania next year with him, with whoever he goes against. Maybe that's, I definitely wouldn't want to see it, but maybe that's Cena's last WrestleMania match. It's him and Breaker. Because remember, they were talking noise on each other a while back.
Yeah.
Maybe that kind of thing. But I could see that. I agree with you. I think that they could use him the same way they used Gunther and, give him a nice long run.
I would hate to see Cena that's the one title he's never touched. I would hate to see that be the match. He still can't grab it, but going out on the sword. That would be horrible to see that. But I think Braun and Cena they'd actually absolutely tear the house down. That would be an amazing match to see the two of them.
And somewhere down the road, I'd love to see Braun and Brock at some point.
Yes.
I'd love to see Braun and Brock.
Yes, absolutely. If Brock Lesnar makes a comeback and those two horses are going, got to reinforce the ring, man. Those guys are going to rock each other around. It'd be Brock and Sock and robots. It'd be awesome.
Yep.
So speaking of mid-card titles, we're on Raw. Let's jump over to SmackDown. Logan Paul, the U.S. champion, taking on LA Knight for the United States Championship. I think it's time. I've said it a lot. I've died on the sword. I've been wrong a lot. I think a lot of other people as well. I think this is the time LA Knight finally gets the big one, finally tastes some WWE gold, deservingly so. Again, not only the journey in WWE from NXT, becoming the manager, kind of betting on himself and becoming like a grassroots success with the fans and getting himself over and showing everybody, hey, I'm undeniable now. You guys see what they're doing. You got to pay attention to me. But also the roads that he did in doing car commercials, TNA, NWA, wherever he was, just paying his dues to this point. I think this is deservingly so for him to get this win. Logan Paul, I think, is an amazing wrestler. He's one of the few people that's come into the business who didn't start here, learned the craft, made it make sense for him, knew that he had to get it right and not just go in there all willy-nilly and jumping around. And now, not a lot of botches on his matches. So that's awesome to see. Him and Bad Bunny are two guys that have done it really, really well in the ring. So with that being said, I think LA Knight comes away with the 1-2-3, walks away with the belt, walking out of SummerSlam. How say you?
I hate to go two in a row with you, but I see LA Knight winning this thing. And you bring it up with Logan Paul. He also looks the part. He doesn't look. I mean, Bad Bunny didn't even really look the part. But like a David Arquette or a Karl Malone or some of that, they don't look wrestler. Logan Paul has that look. Yeah. But Logan Paul, I mean, you can tell he puts the work in the gym, all that stuff. He really has focused on that and being something like Pat McAfee, who is, McAfee doesn't do it as often, but, Logan Paul really put himself into it. I think if LA Knight doesn't win on Saturday, it kills LA Knight's persona. Because at some point, the fans are going to go, why are we so far behind this guy when all he does is lose? He loses when it counts. Why are we even staying behind this guy? Why, yeah, it's cool. He's got his little catchphrase with the L. It was the same thing as Eli Drake when he was in TNA.
Yep.
But I think that whenever you look at this particular match, if he doesn't win, the pressure is on him. If he doesn't win, I think that he goes straight down the slide. And I'm not saying he becomes a schlub or anything, but I don't see him having any sort of massive role in the near future.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where obviously he organically got over, made a name for himself. Merchandise wise, he's gone to the top. He's been number 1, 2, and 3. It's hard for me to think that they don't book him to win this match. It's hard for me to think that he doesn't get this win because, like you said, there is a time and place where you need to go. Well, apparently, they're just going to use this guy to just take the go to the crowd, sell out the arenas, and go chant LA Knight. But then when it comes to win a briefcase or a belt, he just takes L's. So I think it's definitely this is the time for him. Have him have a good run with this, and I think this is going to be a telling run for him. Obviously, I'm sure he has the trust of ownership and creative of going out there and making it make sense. Whoever he's facing across on the other side of the ring, but I think they want to see him as the champ, right? We have talked about it before. I've talked about it with others. Everybody loves the chase. Everybody loves it. You can always get invested. But what happens when you get the ball? What are you doing? Now you got to go back the other side to the other goal line. What are we doing? Cody's getting a lot of flack here and there from some people that maybe it's a little bit more of a lackluster run than it was. Obviously, see him ascend and finally take down Roman Reigns. I don't think that. I know a lot of people. There's a lot of talking heads that are it's lackluster, whatever. But you always have some sort of, I guess, fall off when you finally are the champ, and that's something LA Knight hasn't had since he's been in AEW. I'm sorry, WWE when he was with TNA, NWA. It's just he's never had to be the champion and carry the brand or carry on that show. So, with that being said, if he does get the belt, do you think he can transcend the way he has with crowds now as the chaser and when he becomes the champion going forward?
I think he can. And I think part of Cody's problem is the guy across the ring. Because who has he had across the ring from him that has any kind of the stroke that Roman had?
Nobody.
Nobody. So I think a lot of the problem, if anybody has a problem with Cody, is the guy on the other side of the ring. The best person for him to be with is the guy he's been tagging with. Yep. Randy Orton.
Randy, KO even. Yep.
Or Kevin Owens, right. But talking about LA Knight, I don't think this would be the last match between him and Logan Paul. I think that this could realistically develop into a really long-term rivalry kind of a thing with those two guys. Will it ever get to world title level? No. But could it be one of those things that's around for a really long time? And then you've got other guys that you can work in against LA Knight that not only can handle with him in the ring, but on the mic. A Carmelo Hayes, maybe, if you can get him off of losing. Or a Karrion Kross on Raw. Or somebody of that ilk that has the ability to go stride for stride with it. You don't want to put him in there with Bronson Reed or somebody like that, or really even a Sheamus for that matter, who they're just not going to jive. They don't. It's oil and water kind of a thing. In this case, I think LA Knight wins it, and I think it's going to be a really nice grouping around him of challengers. But ultimately, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him and Logan Paul 3 or 4 times before Survivor Series.
Yeah, I can definitely see a rematch. Mello was the first. You took the name right out of my mouth. Whether Logan obviously is going to go away for a little bit before he comes back. I think Mello's the first guy to jump up on Friday after the PLE, the first guy to raise his hand. Let's go, you and me. And that's a cool thing to a lot of people that are coming up from NXT have had a sparring session with LA Knight. So there's more comfortability there. Like there's a familiarity where they know each other. They've worked in the ring before. So yeah, but no, the challenges are abundant for him. But again, like you said, it has to make sense. Knight does do a good job of no matter who they do put against him, he does make it work. If you watch he's had a couple matches against a couple people, and you can see he's already one of those guys. That's a lot of people forget. He hasn't had a long WWE run, but he is a great veteran in the ring.
Yeah.
And you can see him already kind of running the match, calling things with guys, like kind of carrying the other guy if they're not exactly carrying their weight. But I think him being champion would be great. Obviously, viewers are going to go through seeing him be a champion. I think it'd be a good run. Possibly probably hold it maybe to Mania, maybe have a Mania. Maybe that is like big Mania like moment right there to have that defense where he loses it or defends it either way.
Yeah.
But maybe he holds it all the way to Mania. Then if the draft comes and like you said, maybe we take him. Okay, he did go with the belt. He can do that. Let's put him over on Raw now. Let's see what we can do over here. Them being on Netflix, maybe he's got the mouth for Netflix at that point. Seeing him with a mic without having to worry about it. And again, I've said it too. Like Netflix, I'm not looking for AEW style here. Nothing against AEW, but I'm not looking for like F this, F that, whatever. But when you're able to kind of say one or two things and kind of make it make sense in the promo, just for that that explanation point, that's what I like about it. And they're kind of already doing that on Raw anyway. So, but I agree. I think it'd be a good one for him. Yeah, go ahead.
And you gotta take the kids into consideration too. Like you were saying, you're not going to be, it's not going to be every third word is fire truck and all, right? Rhymes with fire truck and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
You still got to take into consideration the kids. You don't want to go ECW, but you do want to go to the edge of ECW. But and let's think about it for a second. Who's still behind the scenes with all of this? The guy that knows how to push the envelope better than anybody else in the history of wrestling, Mr. Heyman.
All Heyman, baby. The wise man. I think too also, I mean, she's going to be 4 in December. She just started taking a liking to wrestling. I mean, I'm as a parent, like I don't want to tune in 8:15, you're dropping the F-bomb. Like, whoa, it's 8:15, guys. I also don't want to regulate it just at 10 o'clock. But like you said, there's got to be a happy medium. And I'm sure obviously Paul's got kids. A lot of those guys have kids. They understand.
Sure.
But they make it make sense one or two times for an explanation point, kind of that little sticking point. I like it. But just like kind of watching, TBS and AEW where it's a Moxley promo every other word. I'm like, whoa, back up. But no, LA Knight, I think, like I said, I think we're in agreement on this 2 for 2. LA Knight walks out with the US title. So switching a little bit from the men's, let's go over to the women's. Going back over, actually, let's stay on SmackDown. Let's talk about Nia Jax and Bayley for the WWE Women's Championship. There's 2 matches on this whole card that I'm kind of like, I think they could go either. This is one of them. Nia, I was a very big non-Nia person for her first run. Her comeback, I think she's better in the ring. She's better on the mic. They're definitely doing some better character development with her. I think she understands that because the whole meme thing when she fell in the ring, it was kind of a laughing stock. But they're building her as like this menacing kind of Bronson Reed, but on the women's side, the Annihilator.
Yeah.
So Bayley. My only thing with her is right now I'm a big Bayley person ever since NXT. My only problem with this current run right now is it's flat. It's a little lackluster for me. Again, that's not her. I just don't think they're doing anything where you could say the same thing with Damian Priest. I feel like at some point where they're just not really doing anything where you're like, wow, that's a run. We can really do something. And it's like Bayley's doing the Naomi things in the back, and she's getting the feel good wins. And I'm like, there's nothing really that I can sink my teeth into with this run. It feels like it's almost just Bayley's a champ. That's what people wanted. That's where we're going, and we're just going to run with it until someone comes along. I have Bayley walking out as a champion. I think it's too early for a Tiffany Stratton cash-in. I do think Tiffany does something to maybe get in the way of Nia unintentionally, and you start building that between the two. Anytime they put 2 people together, one of them has the briefcase and the other one's going for the belt, I kind of know where that's going to go down the road.
Right.
But, I mean, Nia, if she did win it, I wouldn't be mad about it. It's something she deserves, obviously being queen of the ring. She'd come out every week, throw it in your face, good heat. Obviously with Tiffany, those two on a microphone, amazing. You're talking Dom Mysterio kind of boo levels here. So I have Bayley walking out. Hopefully this is one of those bigger wins for her and we can build on it in the next couple months. But that's who I have. What do you think?
I'm a Bayley fan too. I got kind of tired of the whole hugger thing for a while there, but been a Bayley fan for a long time. I think that she has the same problem Cody has. Look across the ring. If I think if they would have gone heel Bianca and had her going against Bayley, now Nia is getting that awesome Kong type of, destroying anything and everything in her path.
Yep.
That I think is where they're going with this right now. And I've got Nia winning it because of the exact thing that you're thinking is a little too soon. I think we're going to see Nia win it, and we're going to see the tension between her and Tiffy, and we're going to see Tiffany turn, to take the to use the briefcase, because at some point, whether it's Bayley, Bianca, God forbid Jade Cargill, or somebody else is going to really just wear Nia out in a match. It could even be a returning Becky Lynch or something like that, or a returning Charlotte Flair for that matter. But they're going to wear her out. Tiffany Stratton's going to take advantage, and it's going to be a much better version of a Carmella cash-in.
So you brought up two names that are actually that I feel like are the problem. So we'll start with the first one, Jade Cargill. So whatever the case may be, obviously put it with Bianca, which I feel like are one and the same. To be perfectly honest with you, I feel like it's almost like the same.
Oh no!
Meaning like
Bianca's a million times better than Jade Cargill.
No. Character wise and look, I feel like it's almost like no. Ability wise, okay, Jade has a long way to go, and that's not her fault. Okay, she learned a lot of bad things way back when she first started. But I feel like the character's one and the same. And I also feel like, obviously, Bianca and Jade is a dream match. People want to see this. I honestly feel like they're running this until they're going to run those two until Mania. You're going to see Bianca and Jade at Mania, which I feel like is a really long run for those two. I like them as a tag team. They're funny. They're cohesive. I like it. It makes sense. But I'm like, what are we doing? Like, you're really going to run this all the way to April, mid-April now, almost May. The second name that you mentioned, Charlotte. She's on her way back. We could see, maybe we see a comeback this week. Maybe we see a comeback probably before Survivor Series. I don't think you're going to hold her out to the Rumble. But I feel like they're almost getting to a point, and I'm so glad that NXT is going to CW. I think you're going to see them play a big part in the draft in 2025. Because again, they're not on USA. They don't have a lead-in anymore. They are going to be CW. I don't know if you and me talked about this, if I said it with you at any point, but I feel like CW is going to become. They need rebranding. They're hurting right now. No one really tunes in. Like they could be another reincarnation of Spike TV. You build it around NXT, and not edgy, crazy stuff, but you build it around there. Throw a couple other some wrestling programming on there. Then we get an edgy show over here. Maybe get some stuff. Maybe get more viewers that way of getting more of the male demographic, because there's no station right now out there for men. And I feel like the women's division is getting very, very, very diluted. The women's division NXT is amazing. Those women have somewhere they need to go. And a lot of the women up at Raw and SmackDown are great as well. So I feel like you just need to start moving some of the superstars around to different places. I think there should be. I don't think the tag belt should be floating around. I think there should be tag championships on each brand. It just makes sense for there's always those girls can only be in so many places at once. You can't have them wrestling Monday, Tuesday, Friday on the PLE. Every show should have their own tag titles, or there has been talks of women's mid-card titles, which is why you see in NXT a women's North American Championship, almost like testing the waters, seeing how it would go, seeing how the reaction is, how it works. But I could see obviously a women's Intercontinental and a women's U.S. Championship, or call it something completely different. But I agree. But Nia, I think can be booked like you're saying. Like she should be the Bianca heel turn I've been waiting for a long time. Really thought it's going to happen. Really thought it was going to happen before, but I think they're waiting for the Jade Cargill match for it to happen. Like, obviously the Street Profits, they tried that whole experiment, and they're just a better face faction.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was some internal discussion, like, do we turn her heel? Like, what happens if it falls flat? I think they're scared to turn her heel. What if the people are like, boo, just like they did with the Street Profits? Like, we're supposed to boo them now? I thought they were like, they were like top faces. But I agree. I think with Charlotte coming back, I think you hit the nail on the head. Nia needs to be booked as like a just an annihilator, to use that term from her finisher. I think she has the ability with the size, the build, and just the attitude to just really crush anything in her way. And that's the other thing too. I talked about last night. If it is Tiffy and it ends up being Nia, remember the days of Big Show losing to Rey Mysterio back in the day when it was, Tiffy, I don't think can really take down Nia Jax. I think it would be something where she's with Nia for the run, does something where Nia loses the match, and then capitalizes on whoever won that match, because Nia's going to drop 2 or 3 times on him. But I can't believably think that. And again, I love Tiffy. I love Tiffany Stratton. But for someone like Nia, how they've built her up to kind of, unless there's some major, like Bayley beats the heck out of her, and she's just laying there, in a pool, and then she can pin her. But yeah, I think Bayley walks away. But again, it could be Tiffy time, but I think it'd just be a little too soon.
Well, I was just looking. Tiffany Stratton is 5'7", and she's got to be probably 140, 150, give or take.
At least, yeah.
Which is bigger than Becky Lynch, bigger than Bayley, bigger than most of the women on the roster, not named Charlotte Flair or Jade Cargill. Because Jade Cargill is like 5'8", 5'9".
Yep.
And I got something about that part of it too, but I think that if there is a normal sized female that can do the transition of beating Nia, it probably is Tiffany Stratton. But I would rather see the Jade and Bianca thing go differently. We saw one of the things that we did see in AEW. Jade Cargill can be a heel and be a very good heel and tell you to go straight to hell and thank her for it.
Agreed.
I think that if they do it backwards, I think we're going to see we made Roman face and we didn't want him to be, and we're going to completely crap on the whole thing. And I think we're going to see that with Jade if they turn her face and flip Bianca. I think they need to go the other way, keep Bianca face, and make Jade that I don't care, I'll rip your lungs out and dance on your heart like she was in AEW. And she, even if she has to get a mouthpiece, it has to be better than Mark Sterling. Come on. But or Stokely Hathaway. But I mean, if she had a mouthpiece, the Street Profits or Angelo Dawkins anyway, because now you got the whole thing. You got Montez and Bianca, you got Dawkins and Cargill, and now you got a whole little thing you can get going there.
I didn't even think about that. That's awesome. And she was an amazing heel at AEW, man. Like she was great down there, regardless of who was
wrestle a lick. But she was a hell of a heel, but she couldn't wrestle a lick.
It's not her fault. It's not her fault.
I never said it was.
I know. I'm just saying. I like that. It's not her fault. But yeah, no, that's awesome. That's great. I didn't even think about looking at it like that. I didn't even think about having her revert back to the heel days. And she was, like I said, amazing in AEW with the work she was doing down there with that, with her record run as a TBS champion. So staying with the women, let's jump over to Raw. One of the biggest storylines right now of 2024 going over on Monday nights, besides the Wyatt Six, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, World Women's Champion. I feel like there's so much juice to this storyline. Like a lot of people are just, Rhea's going to win. No, there's no way, shape, or form. There's so much juice to this match. And I say that, I think there's a lot of different ways it could go. I think there's a lot of main players in this. Like you have Finn, you have Dom, who else, who else could get an interfere from the Judgment Day that comes down to help, maybe cost somebody a match. I just think it's too soon for Rhea to come back and just claim the championship. I love Rhea. I love Liv. They've done amazing work with this, except for that whole, I don't know if you saw it on Monday night, Liv trying to cry on national television. That was probably, I've seen better work at soap operas, man. It was rough to watch. I just think there's a lot of juice in this rivalry, and doing it and having Rhea get that belt back right now. You lose out on a couple opportunities to have maybe 1 or 2 matches down the road. Do we involve Dom? Do we have Dom as a special guest referee? The one thing I don't want to see anymore is Dom needs to pick a side. The inadvertentness every single match just needs to stop. Whether he does something this week, on Saturday, cost Rhea, and he's like, "Look, I was doing it. I was doing it on purpose the whole time. I'm with Liv," or to actually cost, does something to Liv, goes with Rhea. The guy's got it. We have to have him pick where he's going, one or the other, because the inadvertentness every week is like, here we go. He's going to roll a chair in. He's going to hit the wrong person. The ref's not going to see it. 1, 2, 3. So I have Liv walking away this time. Down the road, when Rhea gets her hands on her again, I think she definitely walks out the new women's champion on Raw. But I think there's a lot more juice in this rivalry than just this upcoming Saturday. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you to a point. I think we should put Dominic on a pole and do the Dominic on a pole match. Revisit the Eddie and revisit the Eddie and Rey Mysterio and put custody of Dominic on the pole. But seriously, I think that you're going to see. Go back in your mind. I think you and I talked about this a while back. Go back in your brain a little bit to when they did that whole mixed tag challenge kind of cluster that they did.
Yep.
Who was Finn Balor teamed with in that whole conglomeration? And pardon the pun.
That was Liv, right?
Liv Morgan.
We did talk about this. We did talk about this. Yep.
You have history here. And Finn has kind of been this swarmy, snarky, guy that, by the way, Tiffany Stratton is bigger than Finn Balor. But anyway, you've got that little underlying with him. Dominic, I think he's trying to pull the wool over mommy's eyes. And what we're going to end up seeing is Liv basically being the new mommy in this whole thing.
Yeah.
And you're going to have Priest and Rhea working together against those three. Now, where Carlito stands, I don't have the first freaking idea. I don't even know why he's there to start with. Well, yeah, I do. They were doing the LWO thing. People started getting hurt and that kind of stuff, and they had to do something with him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's just throw him in. R-Truth was better in Judgment Day than Carlito.
Agreed.
But anyway, you look at it, I think you're right. I think Liv wins. Finn does something that lets Liv win. It becomes known that him and Liv have been working together and all that kind of stuff. Dominic takes sides with Liv and Finn, and you have your implosion of the Judgment Day, which also ends up having some impact later in the show.
I think the kinks in the armor have made themselves apparent over the past month or two, and I think, like you said, it needs to come a time where I think they need to start, breaking down the group and having kind of people go one way or the other. Finn and JD, kind of with like a Liv heater kind of thing, with her being the manager, that kind of makes sense too. But I like what you're saying about Rhea and Priest being together, kind of fending off and bringing back some mixed tag matches as well. That would be cool. But Finn, obviously, I mean, they definitely intentionally went that route of having him grabbing the hotel card, being alone with Liv in the clubhouse when Damian walks in. And obviously, like you just said, being very, very snarky, very short with Priest. I mean, I could see Priest. We'll talk about it later in the show, but Finn could have a lot of things to do on this upcoming Saturday night. So speaking, let's stay with the Judgment Day. Let's stay on Raw. Let's talk about the World Heavyweight Championship. Gunther, Damian Priest. I think this is going to be an awesome match. Gunther, amazing. Watched him since NXT UK. His transformation, has been amazing. But Damian Priest, too, has had an awesome transformation as well. Great wrestler as always has been. He's been a little flat at times on the mic. I think he's getting a little better. This rivalry with Gunther, I think, has brought a little bit more out of him. They made it personal, had him bring a little bit more of himself into the promo, into the match, into the storyline, and I like that. I think he's done a great job being the World Heavyweight Champion. He's had some good matches. But the biggest thing is I know a lot of people are saying that Gunther wins it this Saturday. And when I say that, I mean, obviously reading things online, stuff like that, things I hear. A lot of people are saying Gunther's going to win. I think it's why I want to liken it to the Sami Zayn Braun Breaker. There's no way Damian Priest walks out with the World Heavyweight Championship against Gunther. I think at SummerSlam, it's going to be Priest. Now I say that on the pretense that there's no nefarious antics from anybody in the Judgment Day. Say you Finn Balor, maybe he comes down because what's the one thing Damian tells him all the time? I don't need your help. Leave me alone. Get away. Don't come down. Maybe he comes down, distracts him because everyone knows Finn has never gotten back the belt that he had to give up so long ago. And you can see the almost disdain that he's getting for Priest having this run and having the briefcase and getting that opportunity. So, but I think Priest walks out this week. Bash in Berlin, maybe not the same. I can see him doing a rematch. I'm interested to see what you say. I was challenged on this yesterday when I talked about it. But that's all I have. What do you think?
I think, and there's a lot of moving parts in this thing.
Yep.
But to coin a Bully Ray phrase, if I had the pencil, a lot of people are kind of putting off to the side Gunther's little henchman that he's got. Okay.
Yeah.
And I could see where Gunther gets in trouble. Priest is controlling him, that kind of deal. Maybe he goes for a knee or a clothesline and clotheslines the post or something like that, and Priest capitalizes on that. Here comes Da Vinci, okay? And he comes down, and then the next thing you know, who comes down? Finn Balor.
Yep.
And Balor comes down, and he's trying to even the odds a little bit and all that, and they get into a little skirmish and all that kind of thing. And somehow, some way, in a accidentally on purpose kind of way, Finn Balor ends up costing Priest the title.
Not bad.
But that's just me.
No, it's not bad. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts. I feel like it's one of those matches where you think just you got the answers, they change the questions. It's just like, oh, I didn't even think that's the angle. I didn't know they would go that way with it. So exactly. There's a lot of moving things going on with the factions. I think, Vinci coming back. I know he was kicked out, but maybe he comes back to try to help him.
Not Vinci. What's his name?
No, Kaiser. Well, Kaiser I thought
Kaiser.
of, but maybe Vinci's like more of like because Kaiser's been out for a while. I think he's out for a little while, right? I think he's injured.
He's been out for a while, yeah.
I think he's injured.
He's been hurt.
Maybe Vinci, in the place of whatever they want to do, maybe Vinci is trying to get his come-ups back and get back in with the crew. It kind of does something, helps out Gunther, gets him the belt, that kind of thing. But I think it's going to be a good match. Either way, I think you're going to see some people get down there, get involved, not knowing which way it's going to go. Probably a lot of false twos before we get an actual pinfall. So that's going to be good. So let's talk about.
I just hope they give that match time.
Mm-hmm.
If they make that a 10-minute match, it ain't going to work. And that match has got to go at least 20, or it's just not going to develop right.
Well, I do like the fact that it tells me I'm confident that that's going to happen with the start time of 7:00 because they kind of like to have a hard 11:00 end. So now you're looking 4 hours. I think there's one or two matches on here that can be kind of quick. But I think especially the next match I'm going to talk about, one of the non-title match. That's from everything we've talked about. The grudge match between Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, the story of the summer. Special guest referee Seth freaking Rollins. I don't know, man. This is that second match where I'm like, who should win it? Who needs to win it? Seth Rollins involved. What's the storyline with him? He's obviously there for a reason. They would just make it a regular. They could have made it a no DQ, whatever match you want to make it. There's a reason why Seth is involved in that. I'm a big Punk guy, but I think this is the time that Drew needs to win this match. He needs it. He's done a hell of a job with this heel character, getting it over. running laps on social media, on TV, going the extra mile, taking a picture with Jungle Boy, putting it out, Cry Me a River, doing that, going that extra mile to really burn it into CM Punk. Punk can come out Monday night after taking an L to Drew and still be CM Punk. There's only so much we can take of Drew crying, complaining, being upset, and just being the martyr every single week. Eventually, he's got to get over. He's got to get over. And I think Saturday is the time that Drew McIntyre finally kind of doesn't cure all the demons, but kind of puts a finality of somewhat to that rivalry so we can kind of move on from the other two. Again, looking at the time frame, we're going to the end of the year. Royal Rumble's coming up in another 5 months. We need to kind of break these two away from each other, get them in different areas. Is it done? They'll see each other in the Rumble, I'm sure. Wherever they enter, you'll see them two face-to-face again. But I think this rivalry in particular with him being, I think it's been something that's been prolonged a little bit with obviously Punk getting hurt. Who knows what it would look like if Punk never had to go out with an injury. So obviously they've had to kind of run it a little longer than I think they wanted to. But I think Drew McIntyre gets a win here. I don't think it's clean in the least. What do you think?
No. I think McIntyre wins too, and this kind of continues the ball rolling throughout the show because you're going to have Priest against Finn, and I think you're even going to see some matches with Priest and Rhea against JD Funko and Finn Balor. You listen to Cornette too, but you're going to see some of that kind of stuff. So you have McIntyre get the win here and start going against Gunther. Because if you really look at the crowd reaction, Gunther gets a heck of a reaction from the crowd.
He does.
And you could have him in that elevated role going against McIntyre, and he's gotten really good on the mic that he could go back to that same thing of, Drew, would you please quit crying, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And those two guys would have some really good matches for that World Heavyweight title. Then, of course, you're going to have Seth and Punk trying to rip each other's lungs out. And by the way, is Seth going to wear the Seinfeld puffy shirt?
No, I think they give him a regular ref shirt, man. There's no way.
Oh,
I saw
Seinfeld referee shirt. Come on.
I got in. I was finishing up last night doing a live with Vinny. I'm talking about SummerSlam. So I got in 8:07, 8:08. I jumped. I turned on Raw. And I'm like, what? Come on, man. Really? Come on, man. I appreciate it. I know what he's trying to do, but I'm like, I don't think this was the time or place for that. I think you're taking a very serious rivalry here. Again, though, it is Seth Rollins. He dresses like this all the time. So you know what I mean? But definitely should just come up with regular shirt.
I think this match here is going to have impacts on three different things. And I think it's going to have an impact on the Judgment Day breakup type deal. It's also going to have an impact on the world title because you're going to have Drew and Gunther going after each other. And you're going to have Punk and Rollins, who have been at each other's throats anyway. But now it's going to be a case where, Rollins costs Punk or a fast count or whatever it is, that McIntyre ends up beating Punk, and then you have Punk and Rollins, and you go from there.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, too, before we talk about the last match, like I've said it before, I mean, you and me have said it, when you can't predict the outcomes, that's when it's getting good. So the fact that we have so many avenues, so many different ways to get to the ending of where we want to go, the fact that it's not clear cut, hey, I just went 7-0 and watching SummerSlam, hey, I'm not good. No, it's just that predictable. It's like when you sit here and you go, that guy, and then you see what they do. And that's the cool thing about Paul being in charge of all this. He knows, being the Attitude Era guy with a lot of swerving people for years, I think there's a lot of cool stuff coming up. And I go back to what he said, going back all the way to LA Knight, the match we talked about earlier. Paul said he came out of Money in the Bank last year, where good things come to those who wait. Let us tell the story. Let us put the breadcrumbs down, lay the foundation. Let us build, and layer it. And that's when it's really good. We can look back and go, oh, I remember 4 months ago when that that thing happened. Now this is happening. So that's when it's really good and it makes sense. So I think whoever the direction it is, whatever happens with Seth, it's definitely obviously, like you said, a lot of implications, probably moving into the 2025 WrestleMania season as well, with those two coming to a head at some point.
Well, and what you said really makes a ton of sense because it's gone from WWE being for the entertainment of Vincent Kennedy McMahon to
Yep.
being for the entertainment of the audience. And Triple H gets that. He understands that, like, when things went on in the Attitude Era or in the Ruthless Aggression era, that things happened for a reason for the next week instead of stuff just, okay, I think this is funny, let's do it, or I think, whatever. And there have been consistent, regular surprises, maybe. I don't know if they're really surprises, but uh, things that you may not have expected at different times, but they go back to something like you were saying a while previous.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Hunter builds those stories up. And I think a lot of it, yes, he oversees the whole thing. But if you look at the conglomerate of people that are working on all these, with the Michael Hayes
Mm-hmm.
and the Paul Heymans and the Shane Helms and the Ken Dones, who, despite the fact that Kenny Dykstra was an absolute joke of a character in the Spirit Squad, the
Yeah.
guy knows what he's doing backstage.
Agreed.
And with, Hunter overseeing the whole thing, it's not a case of Hunter's doing everything,
Mm-hmm.
but he's overseeing everything and making sure the edges get smoothed out a little bit. And there you go. I mean, it's the last, what's it been, about a year and a half since Vince stepped down, something like that?
Yeah, I think Paul's been in charge for about a year and a half now. Yep.
I mean, it's a dramatic difference, and the numbers are showing.
Yeah.
When you start looking at viewership and PLE views and that kind of stuff, you can't say pay-per-view buys anymore because nobody buys Peacock. But the number of views and things like that, they're consistently going up. Yeah, I mean, you can tell the difference there. You really can.
And one of the unsung heroes, I think, talking about creative, talking about the main roster, you can't forget about old HBK, old Shizzle down in NXT, man. He is making sure that the future is bright for years to come. What he's doing with those guys down there is just amazing. You can see just like these guys come out, whatever they're doing, whatever the gimmick is, they're 100% invested. And you know, Sean is there coaching them every step of the way. And you see someone like Tiffany, you see someone like Mello, you see Braun Breaker, you see these guys come up and they rise to the occasion. They're ready for it. I feel like back when Black and Gold was awesome before Trips had to take a little time off. When it became, Nickelodeon 2.0, you could see some of these guys get called up and it was like nobody gave a hoot. And these guys came up, they weren't ready for the moment. They weren't ready to be in that light. Whereas in NXT, like, I'm not going to lie, maybe I'm in the minority on this. I feel like some of the NXT PLEs are better than some WWE PLEs, man. Some of the matches that these kids put on are amazing. Yeah. They go again. It's almost like when you're a minor leaguer or you're in the Division I under football. You're auditioning for a shot. Like you got to leave it all in that ring. Not saying by any means anyone mails it in on the main roster, but you're kind of up there and you do your job and you understand how it works. NXT, you want to be the guy to go in the back. You get the hug from Sean, and then 3 days later, you're getting a call. Hey, Paul wants to talk to you in his office, up in Connecticut, that kind of thing. But I think Shawn Michaels has done an amazing job. And I think NXT, even from Black and Gold, what it is right now is, like I said it earlier in the year, it's going to be a third traveling brand. I think that's what the goal is, moving it to CW. The TNA partnership is not done on purpose. On accident. Joe Hendry's literally running with NXT on the road right now. He's literally showing up at every NXT show. And I love it because Joe Hendry's another made guy, a made character he got over with the theme, the look. A lot of people don't know, ex-WWE guy, Rusev Day. Yep. He rolled with Rusev. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the future is very, very bright what they're doing in NXT. And Shawn Michaels needs to have a lot of credit with that.
I just wish there was more believability in the people. And I mean that by, I wish that there were more people that were coming up or even getting a push that looked like they could whoop somebody.
I get
Because
that. I get that.
even on the women's side, Roxanne Perez couldn't whip cream. I'm sorry.
No,
She can't.
that's my biggest
You
thing with
know,
Roxanne. I love her. I know Booker T trained, and she's very good. She's great. She's getting great on the mic in her heel role. I agree. It's so hard to believe she's going to come up and beat a Nia Jax, a Tiffany
right.
Stratton. Like it's very tough. A Bianca. It's very
And
tough.
Mello, Finn Balor, McDonough, Pete Dunne. I get Pete Dunne is legit. Pete
Yep.
Dunne is a legit tough guy, but he's 5'8" and a buck 60.
Yep.
He's just there's no size. There is no possible way a guy like that would get in a ring with McIntyre or Gunther or Bronson Reed or Otis and have a snowball's chance in heck. But that's my only kind of issue with what they're doing right now. Braun Breaker, is he as big as Scott? No. He's what, 240, 250?
Probably around. I
That's
think he's now
okay.
245. Yeah, he's around there. Yeah.
240, 250 is okay. I mean, at his prime, when he was doing the whole Big Papa Pump thing, Scott was 275, 280. That's okay. He's Scott, WCW Scott, Steiner Brothers Scott
Yep.
before Big Papa Pump when he
Yeah.
was 240, 245 and doing stuff that nobody had seen before. You know, that's okay. Even a guy like Rollins or a guy, Punk even kind of concerns me because Punk ain't much bigger than these other guys. So I just
Yeah.
wish that there was more of that believability into things. I talk a lot about old school stuff, and when you looked at if you were looking at world class and you saw one of the Von Erichs walk in, or you saw Chris Adams or Iceman King Parsons, you knew those guys could take care of it. Terry Gordy, Michael Hayes,
Oh wow.
Buddy
Yeah.
Roberts wasn't that
40.
big of a
Jeez.
guy.
Yeah.
Gordy was my guy, man.
Yeah,
That,
man.
that, was, that was one of my guys.
Well,
But,
let me
yeah.
push back a little bit to something you said too. So I know it's an era right now in WWE where it's for the fans, right? I think to what we're talking about, and I'm not taking anything away from the guys that we're talking about, the big dudes, but I think there was also the mantra and what Vince wanted the guy to look like as a world heavyweight championship. And again, though, it was to what you're saying. If I'm going to watch this guy beat the heck out of all these people, he's got to be this big, 275, jacked, being able to take on all comers. I think in what you're seeing in NXT, Mello, all these guys, even Ilya, little dudes. I don't want to go Kevin Nash and calling anyone a midget. I don't want to go that far, but it's like you're seeing a smaller brand of people, but you're also getting they're ripped, they're jacked, they have very little like body fat. They can go the distance and kind of wear down, not a big show, obviously, because I don't want that kind of stuff to be happening where you're beating the 7-foot guy, but they can kind of go the distance and outlast the big guy. And that's kind of that's what commentary is there for, to sell that and do all that good stuff.
Right.
I think that might
Yeah,
be
you're right.
something you might see Triple H go to. And Triple H, listen, Paul was a big dude. Paul was jacked. He was the man. Even the WWE, even when he had his feathered hair and he had the first world championship run on Raw when Eric bestowed it upon him. He was big, man. Especially coming back when he came back at Madison Square Garden and he faced Jericho in the main event at WrestleMania that later that year. He was a big dude, so he knows. He's still a big guy. But then you look at someone like Shawn Michaels. Not as big, cut, works out, ripped, but always able to outlast and have the one last breath. So I think between the two of those guys, figuring out in the middle, making it make sense. So I like your point, but I think also maybe they're going, Vince, if you weren't jacked, shredded, and kind of looking like you were roided out, Vince didn't even look at you as a world champion. So I think we might be going to a new era of, hey, these guys, they're not as big, but it's not just, I don't want to use the size of the dog in the fight, the size of the fight in the dog kind of thing, but it's almost like they're ripped, they're agile, they can go longer, and they're going to outlast the bigger, maybe stronger guy.
Yeah, you make valid points. You do, and that's one of the cool parts about this whole thing is that there's different ways of looking at things,
Mhm.
and it's just a different different people enjoy different parts of the game, and there's a lot of different parts of the game. It's kind of like baseball. You get some guys that really love watching great pitching, and you get some guys that all they do is they want to see long balls get hit.
Yep,
There's other
exactly.
guys that like to see, a game where there's, really strong defense and, real managerial strategy and all that. And there's other guys that just want to see the game played and the heck with it.
Yep,
So wrestling's the same way. There's a lot of different ways to look at it and that kind of thing. That's what makes it cool.
absolutely. So with that being said, let's talk about the main course, the main event. I would assume I can't see anything else going above this. Cody Rhodes, Solo Sikoa, the WWE Championship over on SmackDown. We've alluded to it. A lot of other matches we talked about. Again, a big, big match. I don't think this is one of those matches where, and it hasn't happened much with Paul or Triple H, Nick Khan, anybody in charge, where I think this match is solely happening for storyline purposes. Solo, I don't think is anywhere close to being close to be challenging for a WWE championship shot. I don't. The guy hasn't. I think it's not. It's done in the way. Let me explain why. Obviously, Solo's the new tribal chief, the new bloodline. Took out Paul Heyman, running roughshod on SmackDown. Obviously, establishing their dominance, being the authority on that brand. I think this is the night that Roman Reigns comes back. This is where it needs to happen. And let me tell you why. I know people like Roman comes back in a couple weeks, maybe comes back at Survivor Series. If I'm reading the blueprint of how I've seen things done before with other factions, other people coming back, it's this time of year is not easily predictable. But with SummerSlam, with Survivor Series so close in a couple months away, needing to build up now, it's a War Games staple, right? I can't see someone like Jimmy coming back on Saturday or Jay coming to interfere. All right. You go the road of Roman comes back, cost Solo that match. The biggest takeaway out of the entire match isn't going to be who won or lost. The lasting image you're going to have is Roman standing in the middle of that ring, looking at Cody. They look down at Solo. They look at each other. There's a handshake. Not a, I like you or are you the man. It's a, yeah, you beat me for that belt, and we're not done yet. I'm coming for that. But we got to handle this. And I respect you enough where we need to get rid of this threat. And that's where you start seeing Jimmy Uso comes back at some point when the numbers game catches up on Roman and Cody. Maybe Jay gets involved somewhere from Raw. Sami Zayn drops a title on Saturday. Now he's free, the honorary use. He wants to come and help out. But I can't see Roman not coming back on Saturday. Is who else is going to garnish that? We can't have Jimmy come back and then Jay, and then finally Roman decides, okay, you've beaten everyone up in my family. I got to come back and help and be the established tribal chief. He needs to come back. And what's the one thing we all talked about? Actions get consequences. You've done that. You were wearing the lei. You took out my wise man. You're doing everything. You're blaspheming my name everywhere, being the tribal chief. My name's coming out of your mouth and all these vignettes and promos. Oh, you got a problem with me? Come do something about it. It's not to take it from Joe Hendry, but you say his name, he's going to appear. Now Roman's like, hey, now I'm here. Let's go. Now we go. And I think that's kind of where you start setting that's where you start seeing more parts of that quote unquote civil war we talked about. Now you see Jimmy come back with the family. Maybe Jay and Cody. That bond, he's the reason he's on Raw. Jay owes him one. I think he actually said that too. I don't know if it was him saying that to Cody or what. I mean, he said, I owe you one. He's got to go back and help Cody on this. Maybe even Sami Zayn, Sami and Jay. But like you said, a lot of moving parts. This is another match, a lot of moving parts, but I don't think this match was made for Solo to have any kind of contention. Nothing against Solo. His time will come. He's getting better week after week. I think this was good for him character-wise on the mic, getting more in front of that camera, learning how to act as that heel and kind of working with it. But at the end of the day, Cody walks out champion, but I don't think that's the biggest part. I don't think a lot of people are tuning in to see Cody win the match. They're tuning in to see what's going to happen, who's going to interfere, and what faces we're going to see as they go off the air on Peacock. What do you think?
I think you're right to a degree. I think Cody wins. I think what ends up happening is we end up seeing 2 comebacks, 3 actually, because I think you end up with Cody beats Solo clean. And after getting around all the other garbage that's going on and that kind of thing, he ends up winning the match. And there's celebration going on. Music stops as Cody's getting the crap stomped out of him by all four of the guys, by all four of the new bloodline. Music stops. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. And he goes into a little thing, and it's, the Paul Heyman guys, Roman and Brock. Not necessarily for the purpose of bloodline purposes, but because you jacked with Heyman. Lesnar is there for a short period of time, and then because Cody's got to be able to do something else. Cody with the bloodline needs to kind of part ways a little while. So you have Roman, Jimmy comes back, you got Brock, Jay maybe, Sammy maybe, whoever the fourth one is. That's your Survivor Series, that's your War Games. It could even be Kevin Owens for that matter. And from what I hear, there's another brother. Is it Jacob Fatu's brother? That's
I think that's the gent who's he's like 6 something or whatever. He's a taller guy.
Yeah. If you have that, then you've got Brock, you've got Roman, you've got Jimmy, you got Sammy and KO, who all have a grudge against these clowns for one reason or another, led by Paul Heyman, of course, against what I call Bloodline Wolfpack.
Oh, I like it. So you are the second guest in 2 days to bring up the comeback of Brock Lesnar. So not even on my radar, not even something I thought about. But then I started looking at Twitter. I started seeing some things pop up. And shout out to Sam Roberts, not Sam Wrestling. Everything counts. I go back and I look at one of the interviews that they do over in London with Triple H. Now, WWE puts out what they want. They want you to see it, right? They're not putting everything out there. They're not putting sound bites out that don't mean anything. They got a reporter. Oh, Paul, what are your thoughts on Brock Lesnar? Well, if ever he's probably up in Canada killing a deer, and if he ever wants to come back, we'll have that conversation. And I'm sitting there last night going, they're saying his name. They did that for a reason. They probably told the reporter to ask that damn question. Like now, I'm like, it makes sense, and I like it. I didn't even think about it. This is why I love doing this. Did not even think of the Brock Lesnar effect coming back again. Not for Cody, not for nothing. At the end of the day, he rose Cody's hand the last match they had with the respect factor. But again, you put your hands on Heyman. You put your hands on Paul, man. That's a no-go. That's a non-negotiable. We don't do that here. So I think that is actually, now that we have this second conversation, another set of predictions, that's probably, I feel like now that might be somewhere we're going to go now with Brock Lesnar. That music hitting, the place is going to come unglued, man. Thinking about it in my head, seeing it, like how it would happen, wild stuff. Because unexpected, very unexpected.
Well, but you see what this also opens it up for. The return of The Rock.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you got Wise Man. You got Wise Man leading Roman and those guys. Rock comes back in, starts spouting his stuff, leading Solo and those guys, which ends up leading to Rock Roman at Survivor Series or Royal Rumble or whatever. That's not going to be a Mania match.
No. Rock and Roman needs to happen at Mania, and it doesn't need to be for a title. That's the cool thing with those two. I think that they've worked that. I don't think it needs to be for a belt really with those two. There's enough going on that they've built up for these couple of years. But I was going the avenue. Same thing with The Rock. Roman comes back, kind of again aligns himself with Cody, to help him out to beat this Bloodline 2.0. But it's one of those things where what happened on the Raw after Mania? That story's done. You and me, we're just getting warmed up. Comes back, looks at Roman, goes, "What are you doing? You helping this guy? Are you serious? You know what we just went through? What's wrong with you? You're weak. whatever, however he wants to berate him. Again, leading kind of the same. I think we have different visions. Again, what's great about this is how we get to those matches. And that's where Roman's like, what'd you just say to me? Excuse me? Do you know who I am? And that's we kind of still get to the Roman Rocket Rumble. And then you have, I don't know, no.
Rock Cody at Mania.
Yeah. I don't know, but
I don't like that, but
I think Vegas is going to be
happening.
Roman. That's why I kind of stepped back. I feel like Vegas, that main event, needs to be Roman Rock. I can't see. That's what they wanted to do before. The Rock talked about it.
The only way that happens, and I have the vision of what will happen.
All right.
The only way that particular thing works is a certain person comes back from being banged up. We were just talking about it a little while ago. And he turns on Cody. And you get Cody and Orton.
Oh, yeah.
And Cody and Orton becomes WrestleMania for the title. Rock and Roman is the main event night 1 or whatever that,
Yeah.
The title is night 2, Rock Roman is night 1.
Yep. That's not a bad idea. I like that. I feel like, again, there's a lot of roads to get there. So I think it's going to be the next 6 to 8 months are going to be awesome. And I'm here for it, man. It's going to be great.
Oh, yeah. No, it's going to be fantastic, man.
But yeah, SummerSlam is going to be awesome. I'm glad that they brought Bad Blood back. As soon as I saw that promo, I marked out. I was one of my favorite Raw only back then pay-per-views. That was awesome. I loved Bad Blood. Obviously, Survivor Series is coming up down the road as well, so that's going to be cool. But awesome, man. I think we can both agree that this PLE, again, maybe a couple of things that we know are going to happen, but I think there's going to be a lot of surprises and a lot of twists and turns. We're going to walk around tuning into the post show going, what the hell just happened? So
yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rich. I appreciate you. So one more time, just let everyone know where they can find you on socials if they want to follow you.
Yeah, on Twitter /X, it's Go Big Go Home Pod, or on Facebook, it's my name, Rich Richardson. Talking about all kinds of different stuff, and man, I appreciate you having me come on and talking about SummerSlam, man.
No, we do our open mic on Driving to the Top. I mean, you and me talking about wrestling as is, so I was like, we got to do a show together, at least get all this out here, just you and me. So
absolutely.
For those of you that have never tuned in before or haven't really seen us much, you can find me, Johnny Anthony, on Chair Shot Sports across all platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. And also, if you have a little time on Saturday nights, we also have a national show at 6 p.m. on the Live 365 app on the Block 105 and also SoCal Radio. Totally different from what we do on YouTube. Whole other thing. So, again, Rich, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. It's going to be awesome. And we'll definitely have to get together and talk about, see what our predictions do or don't come true this upcoming Saturday.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate you.
All right, brother. Have a good one. Thank you.
See you later.